Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, sponsored by the Draft Professors. Joined today with two of the original Draft Professors. We don't get OGs in the same room very much, but Randall Slifer, Owen McCullough. Owen, it's good to see you. Your voice is still recovering from Sunday.
Yeah, it was insanity. I remember I was cooking in my kitchen, which has a clear shot to my TV, and it was the fourth and inches with the tush push, and I see they get it, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I turn back around to keep cooking or whatever, and I hear my wife screaming from the room, and I'm like, what could have possibly happened? Did we fumble the ball or something? And I turn around and then I just see him toppling into the end zone. I'm like, what the hell did I miss in that one tush push from the 10-yard line? And I'm like, Jesus, I missed the entire thing leading up to it. Luckily, I didn't miss an actual touchdown. I got to see the actual touchdown afterwards. But yeah, that was crazy.
The Jaguars stopped playing and the whistle didn't blow. So Osiris Torrance got the angry runs on NFL Network today for picking up Josh Allen and taking him to the one.
That was a really good game, and ironically, the only wild card game that wasn't a one-score game was the one that was last night.
Right. Yeah, I know. They had a gauntlet of a wild card weekend for the NFL. Ratings were crazy.
And that's unusual for a wild card weekend because usually there's a lot more games like the Pittsburgh-Houston games,
right,
where a team is basically getting bounced like you don't belong here.
Right. Buffalo's the 6th seed and the best defensive 5 seed.
Yep. Well, we're here to discuss the Senior Bowl wide receivers and to a lesser extent, the Shrine Bowl wide receivers. So I think most of the podcast is probably going to talk about the players at the Senior Bowl, but we are going to shout out some players at the Shrine. And that has more to do with, let's say, where we think the meat of the wide receiver class is. So I'm going to quickly read out loud the many wide receivers that have accepted Senior Bowl invites: Harrison Wallace of Ole Miss, Kevin Coleman of Missouri, Vinny Anthony of Wisconsin, Josh Cameron of Baylor, Louis Bond of Boston College, Elijah Surratt of Indiana, Barian Brown of LSU, Colin Lacey of Louisville, Malachi Fields of Notre Dame, Reggie Virgil and Caleb Douglas of Texas Tech, Romello Brinson of SMU, Ted Hurst from Georgia State, Jordan Hudson from SMU, Aaron Anderson from LSU, Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M, Jacoby Lane from USC, Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State. So, Owen, my first question to you is, who is your highest graded receiver from that list right now?
From the list of the accepted Senior Bowl invites, I'd have to say it's Elijah Surratt. For me, I was lower on him significantly so beforehand. Coming into this, but after a rewatch, a couple last week or a couple days ago, I went through some of the top names, that I had already graded and or had yet to get to. And did some updated grades there. And for me, Surratt really showed off a lot of what I was looking for him to continue to grow with this year at Indiana. Whereas previously I thought, he's a little athletically limited, especially down the field. And he was a player that I thought needed to build out his profile as more of a contested catch guy, add some of those other elements if he isn't going to be this absolute burner, height, weight, speed type receiver. And I feel like this year he really stepped it up with honing in on his route running, especially in the short to intermediate. He showed off some of that more quick twitch and burst to create separation there. And while he still struggles to get downfield separation because he isn't the fastest guy, he started playing with a quarterback in Mendoza that was able to utilize him a lot more on chemistry throws, back shoulders, where he was able to position himself and do more of those contested catch situations, where I thought previously he was lacking a bit. And I feel like that really allowed him to take a step up into his game where I felt like he needed to improve, and that really answered a lot of questions for me. Like, he isn't an all-round guy. He's not going to be a first-round player for me because he's just not somebody who I can bank on all 3 levels of the field getting open and creating. But for me, I think he is a player that is strongly in like the high round 2 consideration just because he does some things really well at a high level.
So, Randall, your eyes got a little bit big there because Surratt was the highest graded, and then Owen said second round. I saw your eyes get bigger. So
Well, yeah.
Go for it.
Surratt is my wide receiver 5, and I'm probably going to gain the courage to move him up a little bit more. I'm a big Elijah Surratt guy, especially with how wide receivers, how this class, the last couple classes have gone. I think Elijah Surratt has the highest floor and one of the most talented with the highest floor in this class. So right now he's at my wide receiver 5. I mean, he's had 4 straight years. All 4 years in college have been successful. 2023, he did 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. 2024, he did 957 and 8 touchdowns. He had 60% contested catch last year. So I really did see some good contested catch last year. And I think his nuanced route running allows him to separate at all 3 levels. He might not have the long speed to separate on his go routes, but I think the contested catch will transition for him to the NFL. But he's got a full route tree, and he runs it very smart, like Cooper Kupp-esque, where he gets separation because of his high IQ in his route running, and then he's just got awesome hands. So I think Elijah Surratt is going to walk in with the highest floor and to be able to impact the team immediately at the jump, kind of like how not as much as Emeka Egbuka, because Emeka Egbuka was polished coming into the NFL, but I think Elijah Surratt is polished enough. But my favorite out of the Senior Bowl is KC Concepcion. He's my wide receiver 2. My wide receiver 1 is Cardinal Tate. Concepcion is number 2. I think he's a four level burner. I think he has great outside press releases, multiple. He honestly, if Marcel Reed was a little bit more accurate this year, he would have had 1,300 and more touchdowns. The Notre Dame game, KC Concepcion went for, I believe it was 4 catches for 82 yards. He had 2 outside burners that he could have got touchdowns on, that he beat, put his hand up and went for it. And he would have had those that would have been like 180 and 3 touchdowns at that point. So I think Concepcion, which a lot of people are comping him to Santonio Holmes, and I think that's a fair comparison. And I think the ability that he has in his route running, his press releases, and his explosion, and his kick returning and punt returning availability is just lethal for the NFL. And I would love for him to be on the Buffalo Bills.
That was funny watching Owen bite his tongue. Like, Owen, it looked like you were biting your tongue through part of that. Was there something that you were going to add?
You were, glimpsed into the behind the scenes of the show before we got on here. It was hyped up that I was going to be disagreeing with Randall quite a bit on our rankings here. And here in KC Concepcion as wide receiver 2 behind Cardinal Tate as wide receiver 1, where both those guys are lower on my list, is definitely Jim definitely hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I get it because, first of all, I love that the wide receiver class is incredible this year and a lot of fun. And it's not just small guys, speedy guys. You kind of get your own grab bag. It's not all X's, tall guys and stuff like that. So it is grab bag. So everybody's going to have their difference. I just think Concepcion brings an incredible ceiling, and he's already burning people in college, NFL style.
I agree. And I think to kind of speak to that is I have 8 grades, and these are all grades that I've updated. So these are 8 grades of round 2 or higher. I have 2 true first round grades, neither of which we're going to be talking about today because neither of which are at the Senior Bowl. But there are 6 others that are round 2 or higher, and that includes Tate and Concepcion, which Concepcion lands at wide receiver 7 for me. I do like a lot of what he does, even despite him being a bit on the smaller side. Now, Santonio Holmes is a little, not super, but just the tiniest bit before my true watching time for football. Yeah. So the comp kind of misses me a bit, but I definitely can see from the stuff I have seen of Santonio Holmes and also just knowing him as a player in history, him being, on the smaller side, sub 6 foot, having that ability to utilize and weaponize their athleticism, to get open, has some good route running because of that, especially if you give him any kind of space. I do think he's going to be able to make you pay. Shows up in his punt or kick return. I do think he is an explosive athlete. I'm not the biggest fan of his hands overall. There was a lot of plays, especially where he's double clutching balls, and if he was in any more tight conditions where it was contested or over the middle, with better athletes overall on the defense, he might be having a worse catch rate just because of that, where it's more congested. So I do think, as a player, I do like to see him be a bit more consistent with that, and it's a lot of times it's concentration or just being able to clamp down on that. I'm never going to look to him as a contested catch type guy, which I don't know why you would. Right. There are players in the past. What comes to mind is not Jalen Waddle, but I'm forgetting the Jameson Williams was an undersized receiver that I really liked how he was able to go up and attack the ball in the air.
Yeah.
Casey Concepcion isn't similar to that, where like he's an undersized receiver that I'm also not really in love with that. So he is more. He lacks more dimensions than maybe some of these elite receivers do that have come out in previous draft classes, where they have the speed, they have the explosiveness, but they can also bring a size element to your offense. So I think that's why I'm losing a little bit on him, and I think Surratt be able to do stuff as a big man at wide receiver, but also bringing you some of that, like you were saying, intelligent, quick release, good, smart routes to get open and create that separation, which you don't really see in a guy who has that amount of size and amount of contested catchability. I think that adding that extra dimension to his game is what puts him slightly above Concepcion for me, even though they're both in that round 2 bucket for me.
Yeah, I love it.
So, Randall, are Concepcion and Surratt your top 2 receivers at the Senior Bowl?
Correct.
And Owen, are they your top 2, just in a different order?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Randall, who is your 3rd best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl?
Let's see. I'm going to go real quick through. I would say it is Jacoby Lane. Jacoby Lane, 6'4", 195. I really like Jacoby Lane. Like him a little bit more than Malachi Fields. For my notes, I really like his vertical threat. He's got good speed. He picks up. I know it's not a stat at all, but in college he picks a lot of defensive pass interference calls, which is absolutely fantastic. He had 3 DPIs against Notre Dame, 2 in Oregon, because that 6'3", 195 frame, 6'4", 195 frame, and everybody's trying to take advantage of it, and he's kind of bodying people. His route running is good. His vertical routes look really good. He's a fluid, fast runner for his size. He can decelerate well for his size as well, and that's one of my favorite things with tall guys. So if you can decelerate, that adds to your route tree. That's number 4. That's number 4. Randall. His releases at the line of scrimmage is solid. He can counter if he's hand fighting at the line of scrimmage. Contested catches are clearly impressive, basketball-esque when he poses the athletic and size advantage. Double moves are decent, especially when you have double deceleration in there. They have to honor the hitches. My only kind of issue with him is kind of average stem work, overruns it a little bit. If he gets tangled up with a cornerback, he kind of loses his timing with the quarterback, and then he kind of gets lost in there. His inside routes are okay, but his outside routes are good. He's very much if you miss on Denzel Boston, go get Jacoby Lane.
Yeah, I can definitely see that with Lane. And I was looking back through in this process of going back and like in prepping for Senior Bowl stuff, I was looking at a bunch of different articles from the past 5 Senior Bowls of like, oh, Senior Bowl winners and losers, like, well, who really went down and shine, kind of just a quick recap of it. I was doing it for both this episode and next episode tomorrow that I'm going to be on with Newt covering the O-line and D-line. But for this episode specifically, the wide receivers that stood out to me that really kind of jumped off the screen are either A, the big physical guys like the Jack Beshes of last year, which I think Jacoby Lane fits into a lot. He's not my next best. Ted Hurst is. I'm a big Ted Hurst guy. I love Ted Hurst. I know I saw it in the chat there. But for me, it's either a guy like Jacoby Lane who's going to win with a ton of size, physicality, especially in those one-on-ones, get some really impressive looking reps, but also a player like a Ted Hurst or like we talked about with Concepcion or Surratt, where guys who are more technically able to route guys up and get separation. And I do especially am excited for Hurst because I do think his athleticism is a bit middling. Like it's not like great. I think he's on record for running a 4.51. Like if he can get sub 4.5 at the combine, I will do backflips because I do think if he can put that speed out there, yes, it would be pretty nice.
Yeah.
But for him, a lot of it is he's really smooth with his hips. Sam Teets has a great write-up about Ted Hurst they posted at the end of last year on the 31st of December, covering Ted Hurst. And I was going through and I read that after I got done writing mine up, just kind of fact check or cross check what I was talking about and getting some more background information on Hurst. And yeah, he's just a guy that, came from a very small school, gets onto Georgia State, and he's another one of those players that you want to fall in love or want me to fall in love with your player is have a guy who has size that does things that are different from other guys who have size, where he can create separation with route running. He has some juice, has some twitch. but also is still able to go up and do those contested catch situation things, and still has some ability to make some guys miss and run after the catch. Like Hurst is able to have some good clean jump cuts and make guys miss tackles and then puts his head down and breaks a couple more to get some extra yards. So for me, Hurst is a guy that I can definitely see going to Mobile and in those one-on-one reps, both winning with contested catch stuff and putting, tapping some guys in the head there, but also creating some really good clips of him creating separation. We'll get some Twitter clips out of that, especially because he has that size and is still able to move like he does. And he also has the upside where he's 6'3", 185, 195, and I think that does show up a lot in his game where he's not nearly as physical as I like. I love wide receivers that can use their physicality and strength to create separation at the stem. I was a big A.T. Perry guy because of that when he was coming out of Wake Forest.
Nice, yeah.
So, and also while in a contested situation over the middle, like Hurst just struggles to hold on the balls there, had a 9% drop rate because of that. And so I think he has the ability to add weight to that frame. He is just a little lean, and he has the size to add more onto it. So him going to a pro level like weight training program and just focusing on getting better at that specific thing while still continuing to do what he does, I do think he's a guy that comes in, has a designed role, maybe isn't a heavily targeted player early on in his career, but as he adds more weight on, as he plays with more strength, I do think he can add that on and still grow and have some ceiling with that specifically. Yeah,
I mean, I would say Ted Hurst has the most to gain in the wide receiver at the Senior Bowl, which I can't wait to see him because, having that ability to show himself against bigger competition. I mean, he still had, Georgia State played Memphis and Vandy, probably the biggest competition that he had this year. And Memphis, he went 7 for 97 and 1 touchdown, and then Vandy went 7 for 66. So decent stats against, tougher competition. He showed that, but the Senior Bowl definitely doing work. My favorite thing is always a 0-star prospect turned into a 3-star transfer sort of thing, coming out of the woodworks and being able to show yourself. I'm curious. He had 999 yards, so I wonder how mad he is that he didn't get 1 yard to get 1K. And then if he also did it, his collegiate would have put at 2K because he has 1,999 yards collegiate receiving. So 1 yard would have put him 1K this year, 2K for college. I wonder if he's still thinking about that. But I agree. I don't have much to add to your report on Ted Hurst. I'm a big fan. I put him at 4 because I do think that the Senior Bowl does hold a good amount of weight for Ted Hurst to show what he's going to do against the Senior Bowl corners.
So, Randall, what round grade do you have on Ted Hurst right now?
Round 3 right now, but back around 3.
Okay, and Owen, where are you on Ted Hurst right now?
So I'm top of round 3. Just
the
same.
Okay, so we're not far.
Same bucket, just a little higher.
Yeah. I think he's talented for that. I think I'm just being cautious and waiting for the Senior Bowl.
Fair.
So Jacoby Lane, Ted Hurst, Malachi Fields of Notre Dame, are all 3 of those guys in the same tier of receivers for you, Owen?
Yeah, they're all in that same bucket. I think I have Ted Hurst above the other 2 just slightly, but they're all in that same, those other 2 are probably mid to late round 3 guys for me, whereas Ted Hurst is in that earlier because I do think he has that upside. But those other guys do have are in that same round 3 bucket for me.
Okay. And then Randall, are you day 2 on Fields, on Lane, and Hurst as well?
And then first round for KC.
Yep. Any other day 2 grades at the Senior Bowl at wide receiver for either of you?
Let me just double check this because I think I might have one.
Like Brennan Thompson, I'm curious. Owen, Owen, I remember texting you about Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State, but you hadn't watched him yet.
I know there's some big fans of his, especially because
one of them's podcasting with you.
All right,
okay.
Randall, give me your skinny on Brennan Thompson.
Okay, so I'm kind of ignoring it because I was pretty high on Brennan Thompson pretty early, and then people started gathering Brennan Thompson sort of thing. So I've kind of ignored it, but he is like pre-2025 collegiate season. He was verified at 5'9", 170, so that is an issue realistically. But he is an absolute monster on the field. He glides. It looks like he's on roller skates when he is on the football field. His deceleration is in 1 step. He can run under a 4.30 as reported with his background in track. Super solid route runner, has a full route tree, including like really good deep ins and outs and hitches because of his deceleration and his quickness. He's physical. He's energetic. He can block in college. He won't block in the NFL, but that's how his energy and physicality comes in it, is that he's 5'9", verified 170, willing to block. He works really well in meshes and whip routes when you're trying to get contact. He knows to evade and stay out of the way to make sure that meshes happen. I think that's very translatable and needed in the NFL, and that's kind of high IQ for him. My only kind of knock for him at the moment is obviously his size and then the injuries that can come with it.
Am I crazy, or was Deion Burks not announced for the Senior Bowl?
He is announced for the Senior Bowl, because I did a quick refresher on him because I saw him as well.
I don't see him on the list anymore.
I don't either.
Yeah, because he's not on the website, but like I just looked it up, and 24/7 had him as like an accepted invite, and I had him done for this podcast. But like, look at this list; he's not on there anymore. I had him with a day 2 grade.
Yeah.
Okay. See, and it's interesting because I've been doing like a lot of the mock drafts, with different fan bases. And I know, Randall, you came in day 3 on Burks when we were doing scouting reports. But I know that it was a relatively high day 3, but it was still day 3, if I remember correctly. But there are definitely people that like Deion Burks day 2.
Yeah, I've adjusted. Sorry, you can go. I just say I've adjusted it because he did have a hell of a end of the season, so I did enjoy seeing him progress and get better at the end. Go ahead, Owen.
Well, I was gonna say I thought you had more to jump in on that, because I was a big Deion Burks guy coming into the season, and he had very limited opportunities at Oklahoma a year prior because of injury, and he's one of those similar mold to like what we talked about with some of these other guys, where maybe not as, or Casey Concepcion isn't as bad, but he's 5'8", 5'9", really small, wins with speed, and has some of that run after catch ability. Especially with the ball in his hands, he's dangerous. But for me, I was impressed by how much he was utilized on the outside for Oklahoma this year. Like, it's not something I think he's going to project to in the NFL at all, but just the fact that he was operating and at that level in the SEC is like, okay, that's a guy that can show that out there. He has some good route running. He's crisp. He's not just exclusively like, there's a player like Baron Browning, another player on this list where I'm like, okay, he's going to be gimmick touch, get him in rounds, get him on. If you run mesh a lot, you can get him on the crossers or something that's a free release into a lateral route. You're not going to ask him to go out there and route up a guy. He's going to be a dude that you're just going to try to get him some touches to without having him go out there and get organically open. But I do think Burks is a player that could do that more so with routes as a slot receiver and operate in that area, especially because he is smart with attacking zones. He was making himself available from a tier. He's reliable with his hands. He's good with body control, especially on the sideline. So he offers a lot of stuff that other just like traditional slots or other like gimmick touch receivers don't really offer, while still bringing that thing all around. So again, another example of a receiver that fits a specific profile, but offering other things outside of that really draws me into them and have me give them a higher grade.
Yeah, I like, just to piggyback that off, because I do very much agree. His sideline is NFL ready sort of thing, like the way he works the sideline and understands the sideline. And also, he almost has like a catch radius of a 5'11", 6-foot guy, because he can catch. He's such a natural hands catcher outside on off-target throws, and it's impressive what he can come down with. So I very much agree.
He has to be used with off-target throws, catching balls from John Mateer. So
valid point. Yep. Hey, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
So, Owen, I'm curious. Had you watched Josh Cameron prior to the podcast?
I had not. He was one of those guys where like, and I do kind of enjoy some Baylor football, and so I have seen him, but I didn't really put his name to memory, and I totally forgot he existed until going back through this list of players that were on or got invited to the Senior Bowl, and I was kind of surprised. Like, I'm surprised he was one of the guys that got the invite, because there was definitely some players, senior wise, and most of them got invited to the Shrine after that I really thought, these are guys that I would expect to be invited. He was not on my radar for a player to be invited, and I was kind of excited to be able to have him on my list to go over again, just because I was like, I haven't thought about this guy in quite a bit at this point.
And then how did he end up grading out for you?
He's in the day 3 bucket. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I do love, and his frame intrigues me a ton, just because he is 6'1", but he's like super dense, 225 around that.
Tree trunks.
Yeah, what people were talking about, like Savion Williams last year, where I was not a big Savion Williams fan coming out. I know he got drafted in the 3rd round. I was later day 3 on him. For me, I'm higher on Cameron than I am Williams because I do think he does offer some more traditional receiver stuff with him, and I thought Williams himself had some troubles with hands consistency and things like that. Whereas Cameron, I do think offers a bit more traditionally, but he isn't that same mold of a guy that is built like a running back in the body of a wide receiver and operates on the outside a bit more than what you'd expect from your traditional running back style players. He brings that level of physicality and size to his game while still being able to offer that in the boundary.
So, Randall, do you see Josh Cameron as a power slot boundary receiver, or he's more of a hybrid? He could do both.
I think it would be I think he can do both. I think it depends on what team drafts him and then what they want to use him as. I'm not a gigantic Josh Cameron fan as well. I think whoever drafts him, it should be in day 3 because I think he needs a full year to develop into an NFL wide receiver. I really do like, as I said, like he's got tree trunks for legs, so he's got a low center of gravity with that, so he can break a lot of tackles. He's a deceptively sneaky athlete for 6'1", 224. He's very twitchy and he moves very well. My big issue with Joshua Cameron is his route running. I think he focuses a little bit too much on his route running than he should with his timing with his quarterback. I think he takes too many steps at the line of scrimmage, takes too many steps at the stem, and that kind of ruins his rhythm in his route running. And I think he kind of almost overthinks it. Is anybody like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the episode The Gang Gets Invincible when they go try out for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yes.
Okay, when he's running the go route and it's just slow motion and all he's doing is thinking to himself, like, I'm running this route really well. It's going awesome. And then he goes for the in route and gets hit in the head. Like, as I was watching him, I kept thinking that because the quarterback would release the ball and he would be 2 steps behind, and then he'd look at his head and the ball would be coming past him. So I think he needs a full year in the NFL to work on his route running and getting his timing down before he can actually be a decent wide receiver in the NFL.
So, Randall, I have a quick question about that because I agree that I think his athleticism lies a lot more in his twitch and maybe his long speed and just like it's the frame that's going to come with the territory where you're not going to get guys who are that size and that thick that can run past guys and blazing 4.4s or anything like that. Would you put any idea into him being more of a hybrid running back wide receiver type player where he's taking snaps in the backfield as like a 3rd down type option there as opposed to just being a traditional receiver? Yeah, exactly.
I had not thought about that until you said it, and then I loved it. So I like watching him. It was a full wide receiver. I kind of just was like, okay, you're a power slot. But the idea of turning him into a potential like a Gadget Z, I think would do him wonders because then he could get in the mix and get NFL touches and snaps while learning that route running. And I think that's a brilliant way to approach Josh Cameron.
That sounds like Kyle Shanahan.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Or the Lions, or,
Okay. So, Owen, I'm going to pick 3 receivers out. I'm curious which of these 3 guys you have highest or if they're in the same bucket. And some of this is me remembering kind of where Randall was when we did scouting reports. But the 3 receivers are Harrison Wallace from Ole Miss, Lewis Bond from Boston College, and Colin Lacey from Louisville. Are those guys similarly graded for you, or is one significantly higher or lower than the other 2?
No, yeah, they're all in the same bucket for me. I'm not particularly. I talked about how at the top of this class we have a lot of guys that I'm like in love with when it comes to like 2nd, 1st round grades, and I do have quite a few of the 3rd round grades, even though some of them had to fall off from my in the summer scouting just because they didn't really live up to it. There is like a really good core of these earlier day 3 guys that I think like, and it's what's really. When you see a healthy wide receiver class, that is really where you want to start taking your shots and hitting guys at is in that early, round 4, round 5, in early round 6, which is where I have these guys graded out as those round 4, round 5 grades. Just because I think that they all offer individual things that I do like. One guy over the other, they're all actually really similarly graded where they're either the same grade or have half a point of grade off between the 2 of them. And I do think that they all offer similarly a level when coming into the NFL, but not really anything that's different or like they're more specified than anything is what I'm trying to say, I think.
So, Randall, if I remember correctly from scouting reports, those guys were either late round 3 or borderline UDFA for you. Which of
Correct.
those three are you highest on? And I do think it sounds like you and Owen may even see them a little bit differently.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so I'm overall, I would say Colin Lacey is the top guy overall. I'm very mid to late day three on all of them. I would say Lewis Bond is closer to my UDFA. Colin Lacey, I do like. He's had some injuries, so then obviously he needed to produce this year. He did well. I think he's got good slot gadget capabilities. He can rush the ball as well as use the short passing game. I think the way that he gets in higher than all three is because his kick returning and punt returning is super dynamite. And now with the new rules and how we're seeing touchdowns come back on kick returns and punt returns, I definitely think that NFLs will covet that, and he'll go a little bit earlier. Harrison Wallace, I think people are gaining momentum on Harrison Wallace because of his game late in the
Playoffs. Yep.
in the playoffs, and he had it. I don't know. I'm not big on Harrison Wallace. If I'm not mistaken, I had to put up a quick stat. Yeah, 53% of his yards this year came from Kentucky, Georgia State, Arkansas, and then that Georgia game. And then the other 47% was all the other 11 games. So he had the first three games. Arkansas was the worst, 120th defense. As an Arkansas fan, it was brutal to watch. So he got 97 off that. He had two 100-yard games against Kentucky and Georgia State. And then he had his good game against Georgia. Everything else was 20 to 30 yards. So I'm not a big Harrison Wallace guy, especially in Ole Miss. He's running crossers and comebacks and hitches, and that's about it. I have him as a round 6 guy with developmental, and then Colin Lacey, I have him in round 5 because of his special teams are so dynamic. And then Lewis Bond, I have him as a round 7 potential PFA. I think he's a better college wide receiver than he would be an NFL wide receiver.
That's fair. I'm curious though, so because I was higher on one Ole Miss wide receiver than Wallace, and he's going to be in the Shrine. Where are you on with like Stribling, and how do you compare him with Wallace? So he's another guy that kind of didn't come out, or he was kind of consistently in the 40s to 50 range with his receiving yards, but then exploded against Georgia in that playoff game, and he had some strong games to round out the season at the end there after taking some time to get used to that system they were in.
Yeah, I like Stribling better than Wallace for sure. I think he's more balanced and comes in with a higher floor, and I think his outside X abilities run better with Harrison Wallace. Even though Harrison Wallace's X abilities look really good against Georgia, I think Stribling is more poised, higher IQ on the sideline, and has better releases at the line of scrimmage. I think he just has more to his game right now and be able to step on the NFL field quicker than Harrison Wallace. I mean, with Stribling, I have for him, his speed is average. His explosion's okay. I think he might do like a 4.55, but his 10-yard might be a little bit better when you look at it. I do like his body control. The run after catch is very balanced. I'm a big fan of that. Overall, I still have him as an early round 5, but I do like Stribling over Wallace.
Yeah, because like with Stribling, it was a lot of coming out of Oklahoma State. When he was transferring to Ole Miss, I thought he was like, okay, this is a dude that if you have him as wide receiver 3, he gives great effort as a blocker. He has some explosiveness to his game. I do think I like his breakaway ability, his speed a little bit more, and you saw that in that Georgia game where he was able to run away from some SEC defenders there and create some big plays for that offense. But at Oklahoma State, I just felt like the quarterback play didn't really give him a lot of chances to show off some of the more contested catch or ability to create at the catch point as opposed to having to do most of his work after the catch there. So I was a little disappointed earlier on with Ole Miss this season, and I heard a lot of people come back like, oh yeah, he kind of fell off. He's more of a UDFA type player. But then as he kind of built back up towards the end of the season, I was curious to see where other people were landing with him because I have come down on him from where I was because I was kind of projecting him forward with like a late round 3 grade coming into the season. And then now I'm more towards early day 3, kind of where you are, round 4, round 5 range, just because I do think he does the small things, like the hard-working elements of the position really well. And then he does provide some juice in other places and can be like kind of a all-across X, Z, and Y type player just because I do think he has the intelligence and has some of the skill set to work in all those different spots.
Yeah, and I think as an Ole Miss wide receiver, it was probably a little difficult going throughout this year with the transition to Trinidad Chambliss. And when Trinidad Chambliss ended up taking over, they started him a little bit more as a run first, pass second guy until they figured out how good of a passer he was. And then they ended up all clicking together as the season went on. So I do believe that some of that mid-season down production came from the transition of switching quarterbacks and getting used to a new guy.
Yeah.
So, Owen, going back to the Senior Bowl group. So, by the way, for anybody watching, Deshaun Stribling is a wide receiver for Ole Miss who's in the Shrine. So, we went from the Senior Bowl to the Shrine Bowl. We're going to go back to the Senior Bowl here real quickly. Owen, anybody else for the Senior Bowl that you have an early day 3 on that we haven't spoke about?
Let me just double check one thing, because I think there is one. I want to make sure I'm not going to misspeak here. Is Aaron Anderson not in the Senior Bowl?
Aaron Anderson is in the
Yep, he
Senior
is.
Bowl. Yep.
Okay, so I have him with an earlier day 3. Similar to some of these other guys we've talked about previously, and there's a lot of guys that fit kind of the same mold of player. And we even talked about some of the guys like Deion Burke, who wasn't on our list, but we did talk about another guy, 5'8", 5'9", if he's lucky, 188 pounds, works after the catch a lot, has some explosiveness to his game, ability to make dudes miss, create some bigger plays, especially over the middle from the slot where he's able to get some more free releases. He doesn't jump off the screen for me as much as Burks does when it comes to doing some things outside of that traditional small slot gimmick touch type player. But for the type of skill set you are looking for with that, where it's going to be explosive, quick twitch. Once you get the ball in his hands, he can make, score from any level of the field because he is able to run away from defenders. I do think he's a guy that if you're looking for that very specific skill set, he's more towards the top of that range, which is why he's early day 3 for me, because he is an electric athlete. I just don't think he has the size or some of the more nuances of details of the position to be, a really stable wide receiver presence. Whereas I think Burke has a bit more to his game outside of the offering that Aaron Anderson does.
Yeah. The idea of Aaron Anderson is fantastic, right? But but I mean, he's got injuries. He had the knee surgery in 2023, 2025. He had a little bit of elbow and toe that limited. They did report that he had in high school a 7:03.60 meter dash, which converts to a 4.2840. So, come the combine and Aaron Anderson can still run under a 4.30, then obviously we're gonna have to adjust. But I agree. I mean, you're basically if you're gonna draft him, and for me, like I wouldn't want to take the chance in Buffalo to take him because of his injuries and the potential of it kind of failing, but his ceiling is why you would draft him in early round day 3.
It's one of those things that I think if you see 4.3 speed on the board in round 5, is there going to be a better athlete there?
I don't think
he's a prime double dip player.
Right.
Yeah.
If he runs a 4.3, I don't think he gets out of the top 100, to be honest.
And that's kind of where I was going. But with an injury history like that, I don't think I take that chance in round 3.
Right.
Yeah, I think he
Miami
is
would.
a player. They would. He's a player that if he stays healthy and everything operates as you would expect it, like in this theoretical world of where you're just looking at him as the theoretical player, he is a guy that probably doesn't make it out of day 2, especially if he runs what we think he's going to run. However, the fact that he is undersized, he is more limited as a player as to what he can offer to your offense, but what he does offer is such at a high level when healthy. That's where you get people who are going to be like, and that's why I said I think he's a good double dip player. Where I'll even say that, like, if you have a player or you're looking for a traditional wide receiver, take the Bills, for example, we need a couple different players at receiver, especially with the recent spell of injuries we've had. So you go and target a player in round 2 or round 3. Like personally, I'd love Ted Hurst just because he has that upside, has some of that more route running you get, and you're still looking to get some more of that contested catch stuff that you were hoping to get with Keon Coleman. And then you're coming back around and you're like, okay, we still need more of a big speed element to our offense. Like Shakir runs a 4.4, Hurst might be high 4.4s, low 4.5s. You still need somebody in that Brandon Cook style mold. If you're already, you added someone free agency, you drafted a guy in the early round 2 or early day 2, you come back around, Brown's on the board there, and you are like, okay, we can still add this dimension. And if he hits, it's an explosive swing. If he misses, well, we already had some other investments there. We don't need him to be, he can be the Curtis Samuel you were looking for, injury history included, but just on a cheaper contract kind of thing.
Yeah, fair point.
There's going to be a new draft professor shirt that you are not the Curtis Samuel that we were looking for.
Oh,
that was pretty funny.
Now, can I give my double dip that I would like for Buffalo now that we're doing it? And we're switching quickly to the Shrines Bowl. But Malik Benson, I believe if we're going to double dip, I think Malik Benson is an awesome candidate for Buffalo double dip. He gives me Jamison Williams vibes, where he's super quick. He did a 10-400 meter in the high school. Did the long jump as well. So if you're looking for football athletes in track, it's obviously sprinting, and the long jump brings the explosion with the ankle flexibility. So I love Malik Benson. He's going to run very fast. He's tall at 6'1", 95 with that speed. He has a great post. He has great crossers and ins and goes. And that's pretty much all he does. But he does it at 4.33 speed potentially with a 6'1" size, and he just burns people. That is my double dip candidate for Buffalo, and I'm praying every day that happens.
So I was texting Owen during the Oregon-Indiana game saying Malik Benson is playing, and he's like, okay, what player, what position is that? I didn't see Malik Benson on the field in the semifinal very much.
So, yeah, weirdly enough, like his yards per route run, let's see, his yards per route run are 2.33, but he only had 16 catches for 212 yards for 2 touchdowns as when I was doing this. So he didn't have that much, but when it came, I believe the championship game, he had 4 catches for 100 yards, and he was the guy that came on the post and then went right through the 2 receivers in the middle and just separated off on them. Oregon did not use him a lot, and I do believe he was 4th in the depth chart when it was coming down to it, but still with his 2.3 yards per route run, any chance that he got in his snap share, he took advantage of. And that's why I think he's kind of a hidden gem right now, and he will enter the draft. So I think that's why he's like a perfect high ceiling double dip candidate that could still be there in the 5th round with a super high ceiling.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not like your traditional. I want to say this, that in the past, I've been a big fan of all these Oregon wide receivers coming out recently that, even though they're like super undersized, they can go out and ball. Like even like Troy Franklin, I had like a early round 2, like late round 1 grade on him because I felt like he was just this dynamic receiving option, and he ends up going in the 5th round because he is like outlier of outliers weight wise, which I didn't really factor into my grade. And now he's out there and he's balling for Denver, and he's actually producing. And then I can't remember what the Oregon receiver's name was last year, but it was kind of a similar mold where he was also like
it was the guy for Tampa Bay, right?
Tez Johnson, another player where wins down the field, is more gangly, tall, has height, but still has a ton of speed. But is again an outlier when it comes to his weight. He was like 170 or something like that. This is an Oregon receiver that is finally above the 190 clip, and still wins in similar ways. So I hope that maybe the Bills can take a swing on this guy. Now, he has been to 3 different schools, the whole NIL transfer portal era we're in. He was highly recruited, Alabama, Florida State, now Oregon. Like, he's been playing for some big programs. So I think that's a level you have to take investment into, is like, okay, why were you moving on from these different schools after being so highly recruited? But I do think as a player that has just traits and that he's your second of the double dip players, I do think that is a good call out there.
And the gentleman that just podcasted for the Browns was just as high on Malik Benson as you were in.
Nice. That's
what I'm talking about. He took him at the very top of round 4 for Cleveland. He didn't want to take him any earlier. Yeah. He really liked him at the top of round 4.
I'm sure that he will end up rising, and it'll make me angry. But I hope he just stays in that round 4 bucket. What if Buffalo drafted Deion Walker last year in the 4th round, and then drafted somebody like Malik Benson, and he blows up, and Brandon Beane's just killing 4th round draft picks?
Brandon Beane does better with his round 4 picks than he does with his round 2 picks.
I know. Sell round 2s for sell round 2 for a wide receiver, whatever one we need to trade for, and double dip in round 4, or go Ted Hurst.
He's so consistent that whenever you're mad at a high round pick, like, oh dang, we have drafted a bust with our 1st round or our 2nd round pick, and people will just be like, oh, we'll just flip the guy they took in the 6th round with the 2nd round guy, and then all of a sudden now it's okay. Yep. He's the goat of doing that.
I won't stop talking about Jackson Hawes.
Oh, I love Jackson Hawes.
Yeah. So we do have a group of receivers at the Shrine Bowl. I'll read them real quickly. Chris Hilton Jr., Xavier Thomas, Deshaun Stribling, Kendrick Law, Jeff Caldwell, J. Michael Sturdivant, Jalen Waltall, Skylar Bell, Caden Wetjen, Eric Rivers, Emmanuel Henderson Jr., Chase Roberts, Malik Benson, Colby Young, Dylan Bell. How many day 2 grades in there for you? And I know that you don't necessarily have all of them watched yet, but any of those guys day 2 grades at the Shrine for you?
I think, and I haven't finalized his grade yet, but of those guys there, I do think Skylar Bell will be eventually a day two guy, especially kind of that later round three bucket, just because in having, scouted against him when I was at UB, because we did play UConn last season and this season. I wasn't in the organization by that point, but he was a guy that we like pegged, like, okay, that's their dude. Like, we need to make sure we're not allowing him to beat us. And then I'm pretty sure he went off for like 100 plus against UB in the game last year, where they beat him like 40-14 or something like that. Like, he was a guy that you were circling on your board coming into it, and he still went off against you. He was that level of talent. And the stuff I have seen in the limited amount of look I did get at him, definitely is the player that I saw when at that level where you're seeing the talent you can get in round two or in round day two. Maybe has some limitations, and you can see that a bit with the level of competition he played against. Where you're like, okay, how's that going to translate? Where a game like the Shrine Bowl is really going to help him out with that, especially for some of these smaller school guys or guys who are buried on bigger schools, like a player we'll talk about in a bit that I'm a big fan of. This is really their opportunity where, like, if you have question marks about the level of competition, similar, and maybe it's like similar to Ted Hurst conversation we had earlier. You have talent on the film that we saw, like we do with Skylar Bell with his route running and his ability to create as a receiver independently of like gimmicks. I do think that that'll show up, and then if you can do that against higher level competition, you're now able to separate yourself and legitimize some of that film you've put on there, and don't have that question mark as much as you did coming out, where some guys you're drafting straight from that level of competition. You're like, okay, but can he do it against the NFL level when he couldn't even do it at that high of a level in college?
Okay, and Randall, how many day two grades are at the Shrine Bowl for you?
I've got 2. Skylar Bell, which I do agree. I'm very excited to see what he does at the East West Shrine Bowl. I mean, he had like his notable yards. He had 103 against Syracuse. Boston College, he had 125 in a touchdown. Rice, he had 158 in a touchdown. Like, these are a little bit lower level, but he's still like blowing them out of the water, which I love to see, sort of thing. So I do agree Skylar Bell is in there. And then Eric Rivers, I think, is right at the end, like floating right around my number 100 guy. Super burner, super explosive and an aggressive route runner, super animated in his double moves, uses his head, hands, and whole body to burn people at the stem. Deceleration is top 5 in the class. Big fan of his deceleration. Has all 3 levels of speed, separates well, very good long speed for go routes. Improv on scrambles is super well. Buffalo ends up taking them, which I don't think they should, but works well in scrambles. I think his agility is really good. I think he's going to do really well in the combine, especially in agility and speed. So like his 3-cone and his shuttle will be really good. Obviously there was a dip in production moving over, but I still believe in his traits and what he is capable of. So I think with his athleticism and his wide receiver route running, he will go back.
So Randall, from when you did your wide receiver big board to now, what changed for you on Rivers?
Well, I had him as early round 4, and I had him as my wide receiver 19, I think. Yeah. Which it's still kind of there. And then, I took people down, so I think he's down to like my wide receiver 16 because a couple of people went back and is going back to school and stuff like that. So I didn't really adjust, but he went down because I had like Nick Harbor ahead of him and stuff like that.
Fair enough.
Just some guys I took off the board, and then he kind of moved up.
Okay. So Owen, where are you on Eric Rivers from Georgia Tech right now?
I like him. I think Randall hit the nail on the head with like his athletic profile being the real standout for me, and like what you're really banking on for him to be that. It's similar to what we were talking about with like Aaron Anderson, where it's the idea of him as a player in your offense, bring an element of dynamicism or dynasticism. Is that a word for it?
Dynasticism. Yeah, you got it.
To your offense, I do think that is where you look for that. Now, the more minute stuff about his game, being consistent, operating within an offense, I'm curious to see how he operates with that. And I do think a game like the Shrine Bowl, where you're being thrown into a different scheme, and teams are looking to see how quickly you can adapt and learn, and then play in an all-star game under different NFL level talented coaches. That'll help him a ton more so than it would for like other players, where you're looking to see if they can win in one-on-ones or if they are up to snuff athletically. Where some of those other guys, that's where they're going to make their money. I think where Eric Rivers is going to make his money is by winning over the coaches in the film room, and being more of the actual Shrine Bowl game itself will be where he kind of highlights better than it maybe say some of the practices or more flashy drills that you'll see them participating in.
Okay. And Randall, anybody else at the Shrine that you want to give a shout out to? Because I am going to set Owen up with Chris Hilton in a minute, because I know that Owen will want to talk about that, but I need to cue that one up.
Perfect, because honestly, I haven't done my work on Chris Hilton Jr., so I will be listening. I'll go two real quick that I do like. BYU Chase Roberts, I think, has a good frame at 6'4", 210, three-star prospect, stayed in BYU the whole time, has decent speed. Hopefully he can break 4.50, but I think it might be right at that 4.50. But he's a good X-style receiver, can work in the slot and sometimes fluid for 6'4", motions well in the first and second level that I really like. Has a full route tree. He has a nasty whip route and a really clean post. And I am a sucker for a whip route, to be honest with you, especially if you're over 6'3". Stem work is a little bit clunky. He tries to sell outside-inside leverage, and he needs to learn to use his body to gain that leverage. But overall, I think he is a good day 3 guy that you can put into a project, and he can be a really good NFL wide receiver. And then I won't quit. He's a late day 3 right now. I won't quit J. Michael Sturdivant, even though he did not do that great in Florida, even though Florida was kind of a disaster. But J. Michael Sturdivant's probably going to go into round 6. He could break 4.40 speed, and his hands are absolutely dynamite. His third level is great. He's got good separation on vertical routes. His post is nasty. His go route's nasty. His double moves are good. And his hands, like, every time I watch him, he's making an NFL caliber catch, and he just comes down with it in double coverage, or he can high point it at the perfect time. He won't be noticed a lot, but I do believe that he is an NFL receiver that might go hidden in round 6 that could really work out.
Okay. So, Owen, the channel hasn't covered Chris Hilton very much since we did the LSU podcast, and I want to say that was in June, but it may have been right after July 4th. So I remembered Chris Hilton, the LSU podcaster, came on. You, me, Dale, we were talking about Aaron Anderson. We were talking about Nick Anderson. We were talking about a bunch of other LSU wide receivers. The LSU podcaster said you have to talk about Chris Hilton. So I had Chris Hilton on the wide receiver scouting reports for Randall when he was doing wide receivers. And the message was, why did you ask me to look at Chris Hilton? So, cue up Chris Hilton from LSU.
Yeah, so Chris Hilton was a player that, like you said, we covered in the LSU podcast. And for me, to be honest with you, Nick Anderson is a player, and he's going back this year, that I think is going to be a guy that's going to ascend a lot more. I know the LSU offense kind of struggled this year. I don't think any of them were particularly like elite talents. So I'm curious when I go back to my Garrett Nussmeier rewatch, how much that's going to impact how I view him and what he did this year, because I don't think he had nearly the level of offensive talent he's had in the past, even like subbing in for Jaden Daniels in the past. But for me, Chris Hilton graded out higher than like a Barron Browning is, where Barron Browning was a player coming over from Kentucky, and I think he's in the Senior Bowl, correct? Browning is
Barry and Brown, yes.
Or yeah.
So
he's a player that like came over from Kentucky, was more of a gimmick type player, even though he's like 6'1", 190. A player where I didn't really see him as like similar to what Randall said earlier. Like I think he's a fun college wide receiver, but a lot of the NFL stuff is just not going to come naturally to him. And then Aaron Anderson, again, the idea of Aaron Anderson is awesome, but like he wasn't really available for them. And Nick Anderson got hurt, is going back. Chris Hilton I have graded as like in the middle of all those guys, and he was a timed 4.45 in high school as a sophomore. Recent radar tracking thinks he's going to be closer to like a 4.35 at 6'1". Like he has size and he has speed, and he has no production. Like he had like the most production he had was like 240 yards in a season, and this year was sub 200 yards. So I do think that that's going to be a big sticking point, and he's a real. You have to watch the tape to understand why you might like him and where he could be kind of a secret guy that. I think an area like the Shrine Bowl or a game like the Shrine Bowl is really going to allow him to pop off, which is why I referenced buried guys on P4 depth charts and alongside with G5 players, because a player like Chris Hilton Jr. does all the little things you love. Like he runs those love of the game routes, clear out routes for guys underneath. Like every time you see Aaron Anderson get a wide open dig route or Nick Anderson have a free access to the slot or up the seam is because Chris Hilton is clearing out those two high safeties, and he's using that speed to kind of push that push those defenses to consider that. Even though he's not getting the targets and not getting the opportunities in that offense, he's making plays as a player that doesn't need the ball. So I love that mentality, and I love that ability to do his role well, despite having a bunch of physical talents. And just because he had 3 other receivers above him that we're all talking about in draft conversations, he didn't get the opportunity, especially in a struggling LSU offense. So for me, the Shrine Bowl with Chris Hilton, I'm so happy he got invited, because now you have a guy who's uber talented athletically coming to a place where he can now become the focus of an offensive attention, and then get passes directed to him and allow to, show some production skills off at this game, while still, doing the small things, endearing himself to some of these coaching staffs who are looking for players that are going to do the little opportunities or little things in the offense and do their role without complaining. So he's a player that I love the mentality of his game, his athletic profile, and just all I needed to see was him have a little bit of jumper production this year. Didn't happen, but now I'm kind of holding on to the hope of that these all-star games and the combine are going to boost his stock enough that I can safely say I was the earliest in on the Chris Hilton train.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
Sounds like a Buffalo
shout out to Noah Tingle, was the LSU podcaster that came on Draft Professors. He's actually been on our channel 2 or 3 times. He was the first one to talk about Chris Hilton. Like, Dale didn't have him from Bengals and Brews. He was not on the original list that anybody had given me for like who should we talk about on an LSU podcast. So Noah comes in, talks about Chris Hilton. I was about to say the last name, fumbled there for a second. He talked about Chris Hilton, and what I heard was that it's his game is the skill set that translates. He's your perfect wide receiver 4, because he's going to come in, he's going to block, and he's going to do the things that you need a wide receiver 4 to do. So that's what I heard with Chris Hilton. But Randall, what else were you going to add?
No, I was going to say he sounds like a Buffalo wide receiver.
Yeah, he's
willing to do the dirty work.
He's like that Mac Hollins mindset, but like a little bit smaller, but having a lot more dynamic athleticism to his game.
Is he also crazy?
Any other receivers that anybody wants to shout out?
What's that? Anybody else?
I mean, we've done Malik Benson, we've done Eric Rivers, we've done J. Michael Sturdivant, we've done Deshaun Stribling, we've done Chris Hilton.
Bell's an athlete. He played quarterback, running back, wide receiver in high school, 6'1", 210. He's got a basketball background as well and a track background. Really good explosion, very strong build, special teams player in all facets. So he's on kick return and punt return duty on the defensive side for special teams. Willing blocker, has some decent twitch. Definitely is a project, but he could be a late day 3 ad as well.
That was Dylan Bell from Georgia?
Correct.
Yep. And then, Owen, have you had a chance to watch either Dylan Bell or Colby Young yet?
I haven't. I've been watching a lot of Georgia games like on the broadcast recently, just because they're in the playoffs. So I've heard their names. I haven't gone into the deep dive of their actual film yet, but I do think that I have been leaning towards Bell as a player that I've liked more of the two, especially because what Randall has kind of talked about. Because you're watching games in the broadcast, a lot of times you're relying on them to mention their names or making kind of more splash plays to get their name mentioned on the broadcast. And I've heard his name significantly more than I have with Young, as opposed to the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah, Colby Young has a limited route. I mean, 6'4", 215 is out. He's just got ins, outs, crossers, and goes. He's got reliable hands. His short route running is okay. His intermediate isn't there. His deceleration's okay. His double moves are okay. He has good physicality, but he's probably going to run a 4.55, and he has some off-field issues that I probably wouldn't take a chance on.
Okay. Any other wide receivers for the Shrine or the Senior that haven't gotten enough love from the draft professors?
I will say that I haven't. So Randall mentioned him a second earlier, but like J. Michael Sturdivant, I wasn't the biggest fan of him, but I still think he was one of the players I didn't get to a full rewatch just in preparation for this. So I'm still basically going off of what I've limited seen this year watching Florida games, what Randall has said, and what I had based off of my summer scouting reports. But based off of everything I've seen, what Randall talked about, like a lot of the stuff that he did that I really loved and was projecting towards last year, sounds like he's still doing the same thing. Like I felt like he
Yeah.
was mostly a deep threat kind of guy, brings some size, great hands, good speed. And the fact that Florida kind of imploded around him, I'm probably not going to hold that much against him. So I'm personally anticipating now going into that next rewatch to not drop his grade a ton from where I have him. And I have him as like my lowest round 3 graded receiver. He could be a guy that by the end of this process, when we're coming around draft time, I'm the one banging the table for him. For a team in the back half of round 3, if like you need a deep ball kind of player where if he does his thing and he does it well, just the fact that he has bad quarterback play or bad play
Right.
by his teammates around him, you can't really knock him against that.
Yeah. Kind of like a little jacked up Darnell Mooney. Like Darnell Mooney, you get those, like he's so dynamic as a vertical threat, and you can get that out of J. Michael Sturdivant.
And one of the things I learned from last year's draft is the NFL really values wide receivers with twitch and long speed, because like there was a huge run on receivers like that mid round 3 all the way through round 4, right? Because I remember like there was a debate when Buffalo traded up at the top of round 4 for DM Walker. Oh, we're going to get a wide receiver. Which one is it? And then it turned out to be a defensive tackle. And then by the time round 5 came around, there were no wide receivers left. All the players that different people, different podcasts, including us, said, well, we can get a receiver like that in round 5. No, you can't.
Yeah, like Kyle Williams, Ty Felton, all those guys that you thought would be there in the early down round or early day 3 were just gone by that point.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely like the round 3 call out on Sturdivant, because I do think like a player, it seems like, okay, so let's take J. Michael Sturdivant versus Malachi Field, right? So Sturdivant, higher athleticism, whereas Fields is bigger bodied wide receiver, but he's not going to route you up to go vertical, right? Is that a fair assessment of Fields?
And contested catch percentages in situations in college, you really have to analyze it and make sure that that's going to translate to the NFL, because that's probably one that has the highest variable of not translating, in my opinion.
Yep. So consistently, and I'm doing all of these mock drafts with different fans that come in on the simulator, right? A lot of people will talk about Malachi Fields in round 3, and nobody's even mentioned J. Michael Sturdivant yet. Like, and we're doing like a 4-round, 5-round mock. Sturdivant's name isn't even being mentioned. But I do think the players are going to invert draft spots, because the field skill set, I don't want to call it dime a dozen, but it's not, I don't think Fields is unique.
Yeah, no, I can feel that. I mean, Sturdivant probably will raise when it comes to his testing and stuff like that, because I don't know what year, 2023, he was on Bruce Feldman's freak list. So he was at 23.2 on the gun, bench 300, and squat 400. So he's an athlete. I don't know how old he is, but honestly, I don't take age into heavy account anymore, realistically. When it comes to nil and a lot of people staying, I think 24 years old is fine.
Yep.
Just for clarification, he's 23 and will turn 24 in September.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
Malachi Fields or Chase Roberts, why would Fields be graded a full round ahead of Roberts?
Remind me which one Roberts
I'm hearing
yeah, probably,
round 3 on Fields, and most people are day 3 on Roberts.
Yeah, I mean, 6'4", 220 is a very good size. Does really well in zone and the middle of the field, which the middle of the field's getting attacked a lot more instead of just the outside. Production was decent, and his contested catch was very good. I mean, like top 5 SportsCenter highlights kind of contested catch situations. So I do think that Malachi Fields' contested catch ability can translate to the NFL. But with that being said, I think probably a little bit of scouting the helmet and production over the talent is what I'd have to guess. Because Florida, as Owen said, Florida imploded. So everybody was high on Florida until week 4 hit, and then we just kind of forgot about them. So then realistically, the Notre Dame was still doing their thing, and Malachi Fields was making those insane catches on seam routes and stuff like that. That was impressive. But I think he just got more attention that way.
Speaking of, so this is kind of off topic, just because I was going through my list and I realized I hadn't moved this player over yet, but I also haven't heard anything about him. What happened to Jaden Greathouse from Notre Dame? Because I know him and
He's
Fields
staying.
were like
He's staying another year.
I saw he only played 2 games. Like, I didn't hear anything about him after the summer, really.
I think it was a hamstring, like a heavy hamstring injury, and then he just like never got better, and then just decided to redshirt.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
He'd be a player
there's another receiver on Notre Dame who's actually in the draft, and we're not even talking about him. But he's he's tiny.
It's not the kid. Oh no, that's Penn State. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Trevor Pena. Let me see.
Yeah, and here we are, like Googling things in the middle of the podcast.
Jaden Thomas,
Jordan Faison.
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 Yep.
So yeah, I'm doing a quick. I'm making sure. Yeah, so he's 5'10", 183. But okay. So ESPN has him listed as a junior. I thought when I looked him up, he was definitively in this draft class.
I do not know.
His tape just made him a UDFA, and his size made him a UDFA. But there are some people that really like him.
It seemed like he's only played 3 years, at least recorded statistics in 3 years. So he's either a 3-year junior or a 4-year junior. So he definitely has 1 more year left.
Yep. Oh, you see, and he can be. Who was the Bills wide receiver that played lacrosse and then went to the Patriots?
Chris Hogan.
There we go. So he has a lacrosse background. So Jordan Faison.
I do love the lacrosse background, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, Brandon Riley was electric.
Yeah.
Brandon Riley in preseason was electric.
Oh yeah.
Well, so that was you guys. We just covered like 20 or 30 receivers in like 65 minutes.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah. Randall, do you want to let everybody know about Draft Central, Team MBS Media, and all of the things that you do?
Yeah, I do a Buffalo Bills podcast with Dew Champions on Mondays at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. Still going strong because we're in the divisional round. And then obviously with Draft Professors, we do Tuesdays. Obviously love my Tuesdays, and I'll be getting more in the mix on different days, getting really ramped up for the draft. And then I also write for the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Buffalo Bills for our website, teammbsmedia.com. And we will be beginning soon our NFL Draft Central as well. That goes over the draft up until draft day as well.
Owen.
Yeah, so I run the YouTube channel and Twitter channel at Weekly Huddle, where I'm going to be posting a lot more videos as we ramp up the draft season. I know I said that every week, and I just still continuously just work on these podcasts, and that's all the content I put out. But I'm definitely going to be going on and doing some more top 10 stuff, especially as the confirmations of who's going to be in the class and who's returning kind of slow up and are finally finalized, because I'm going to be doing some top 10s also to advertise for the fact that I'm going to be writing the interior offensive line big board and section for Cheesehead TV over for the Green Bay Packers. So for that draft, I'm going to be writing the entire interior offensive line section for them, so you can catch that. That'll probably be the last top 10 I do, just so I don't cross-pollinate over my own work. But everything else, I'm going to start doing my top 10s to ramp up to that. So I got to jump back into these quarterbacks. My list still has like Drew Aller and Cade Klubnik at the top. Like I need to jump back into these guys.
Can you say it's Blue Cheesehead instead of just Cheesehead TV? It's Blue Cheesehead.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. It's Blue Cheesehead TV because now they let a Buffalo Bills fan infect their ranks.
Oh, so first of all, if you are watching this podcast, give Randall and Owen a follow. So Randall at Randall Slifer, Owen at Weekly Huddle. Draft Professor cannot put this content out without each of them. Owen shows up 2 different podcasts a week. Randall will likely be on 2 days a week. We can't do this without them. Both of them have been here since the channel started. So I am truly appreciative to both of you. What I would also like to remind everybody if you go to at NFL Draft Fanatic, no, I am Fanatic, which is the Draft Professor Twitter page, the pinned post is a sign up for a 32-person mock draft. Every week, we do a new mock. It's Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. So if you would like to draft for your team, so I'm talking to you, Ryan Sparks, and I am talking to you, Brandon. You
The direct callouts is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm talking to all of you, right? Go sign up, draft for your team. It is by far the best way to meet a lot of the people that are using the Draft Professor Simulator. It's a great way to do a board check. Does everybody grade Malachi Fields, where we just said on the podcast? Does everybody grade Lee Hunter at the same spot, right? You're going to begin to learn if other people are grading the players that you think your team is going to take in round 3. Maybe some people are grading those guys in round 2. So you get to learn like who's targeting a safety, who's targeting a linebacker. I learn a lot from the 32-person mocks. They are a lot of fun. And the more people that join them, the better the overall flow goes. So the best thank you can give would be a subscription on YouTube. The second best thank you is to do a 32-team mock. Just join us. But with that being said, I also want to give a specific shout out to Lilia. So Lilia wanted to make sure that she said hi to both of your wives.
Oh, yes. Hello. I didn't know who it was because I was trying to read it and it came off. What is up? Yes.
I say Lilia is in the chat for the
love
cats
meeting
all the
you,
time.
and I'm glad that you stuck with it. Has she eaten all the honey?
No. Oh, that was a lot of honey.
I love it. Listen, they were about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Specifically for Lilia, I have the cats here. Hold on, She always asks to see the cats.
Oh yeah. And Randall, if you have a cat, I saw your cat. Like Lilia likes watching the podcast to see the cats.
Nice. I don't have a cat. I got 2 corgis. That's it.
Oh, okay. So that was a dog I saw then. It looked like a cat.
Yeah. Little dog. Yeah. He's got cat-like tendencies.
Cool. But anyway, for Randall, for Owen, for myself, and the 110 people at Draft Professor, thank you for tuning in. We will see you on a podcast again next week where we cover the winner of the Bills-Broncos game and how they built their roster. So,
it's going to be the Bills. So.
Yeah. Go Bills.
Go Bills.